Hey guys, it's the Betting Edge with the Prez for Monday, December 9th. And well, I'm excited to have my co-founder, my partner in crime, Marco D'Angelo with us. Today's show, we're going to take a look briefly at tonight's football game. And then we're going to take apart the entire card for Week 15 in the NFL. We're going to do it quickly. We'll do it from a line move and early look perspective. I just want to make mention it is $9 Mondays over at Sports Memo and Wager Talk today. Every package, every play today is $9. And also to give you guys perspective, if a play is put up for Sunday in the NFL or for Saturday or whatever, and it is sold on Monday, it is still $9. Wealth Michaels has a 5% play up in NFL already for this coming Sunday. It's only $9. Carmine Bianco has a 5% play, and he won his yesterday. It's also up at Wager Talk, and you can get it for only $9. Let's bring in my good pal and friend, Marco D'Angelo. How are you, my brother? Rough week, and I'm sorry, man. Some bad losses yesterday. You had a 5% play on New Orleans, and I felt like the minute they went for that 2-point try at the beginning of the game, I was uncomfortable the rest of the way through. It happens, dude. You want to rant about Sean Payton? I hand it over to you.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was a 1-2 day, Prez. Our winner was an easy winner. It was an over that went over early in the third quarter on Chargers in Jacksonville. And then we lost. Our other play was another one that could have went either way with Arizona, but we'll leave that one alone. I got to talk about Sean Payton and these coaches that just continue to get too cutesy on the sidelines. I know there was a 15-yard penalty, a personal foul on the touchdown, so it moved the ball from the 2 to the 1. And every math nerd in America is yelling, "Oh, the math says you go for 2." Well, you know what? F the math, okay? You got to look at game flow, and you're playing at home. That was early in the game. You've got momentum. You had your first 2 opening drives go right down the field. Why give up any momentum at all if you get stopped? And that's what happened. They got stopped. You just give up a point. You got the extra 15 yards, move the kickoff 15 yards forward and do a line drive kick where they got to field the football and maybe you pin them back inside the 20-yard line. Poor for field position to start. But that's just the beginning for Sean Payton. 2 other series that I got to make note of. Drew Brees wasn't stopped at all yesterday. Yet he comes out and starts a series with Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill actually runs the ball out of the Wildcat for 2 of the 3 plays on the series, and it's a 3-and-out. Why would you break momentum there? And then just a stupid call on 4th and 18 at midfield, he decides to run a fake punt. And I get it. The play was there. They saw something on the tape. But unfortunately, the guy gets absolutely mugged, and there's no flag. Well, I really didn't realize that on a fake punt, the 2 gunners cannot be called for pass interference because it's a fake punt. But the correct call would have been to call for holding because he did hold the guy, and we would have got at least the automatic first down on the play. Those 3 plays was the game in a nutshell. And then, of course, when they did score the touchdown at the end, they had to go for 2 to try to go up 3 so that if San Francisco went down and kicked a field goal, which they did, it would have been going into overtime instead of losing. So, again, just
Marco,
stop with all the math.
Marco, I can add to a lot of that. I mean, firstly, I felt like the refs were a disaster yesterday again. I feel like they've been involved in the outcomes of many games this year. I had a 2-3 day yesterday, but I did win my 5% play on Kansas City. Yes, I had the balls to stare New England's trends and angles, their 44-0 at-home December run, directly in the eyes and not blink. With that said, the refs cost New England. a chance to put that game into overtime. And then the refs really screwed up on a couple of pass interference missed flags on Buffalo, which would have given Buffalo amazing field position. And I was on Buffalo at +6 against Baltimore. And I think the refs really got involved in that game too. I, like you, was on Arizona. And although the refs didn't cost us, Kyler Murray, he could have gotten on his hands and knees and barreled himself into the end zone, and he decided to throw an interception instead. It's been a really, really crazy year, Marco, all around. I mean, Philadelphia goes to Miami last week, loses outright. Then you have Denver go into Houston in a really important game for Houston, and loses and just destroys Houston. Although with that said, that was I made 2 monster bets this week, Marco, this weekend. And it's funny, I should tweet these damn things out, but I never remember. I'm so bad on Twitter. But my first monster bet was Oklahoma. They were down, and I took them -3.5. It was 3 bets I made. They were down to Baylor, and I bet Oklahoma in game, and I won that. Then when Ohio State was down 14-0, the line was -3.5 for Ohio State. I pounded the crap out of that. And then I got lucky because I bet in-game on Houston at +20.5 at one point in that game. And I cashed that. So although I had a 2-3 Sunday and a 1-2 Saturday, I did actually make a bunch of dough because I tend to bet larger on the in-game bets if I can get better value than the original line. But a frustrating week and just a frustrating year in NFL for me personally. But there's nothing you can do about it. You know, you do this for 20 years, you're going to have off years. And this is my second bad NFL year in 20 years of handicapping. So I have been there before, but what can you do, my friend? You just keep plugging forward.
Absolutely. You turn the page and move on. And that's where we should head right now and hit tonight's game and take a look at next week's matchups.
Yeah, so, Marco, I wanted to play on tonight's game, but I'm not. I'm passing. The total is 45. Last night it was -10. It's now -9.5 to Philadelphia. And to me, I feel like if Daniel was the quarterback for the Giants, I actually really like the over here. The problem is Eli is quarterbacking, and this could legitimately be Eli's last start ever in his history. And I got to believe the Giants are going to play a monster of a game to support that. I just don't know if they can. I think they're going to try. But we've seen 2 years of just really mediocre at best Eli, and there's no reason to think he's going to step out tonight and be some kind of, juggernaut. I would take Philadelphia, and I would take the over in this game. But not only am I passing in this game, I'm actually banning all sports tonight. I'm going sportsless tonight because I'm just, I need a damn break.
Well, I can't disagree with taking a day off. It's always good, clear the mind. This one, I'm taking the game off. I'm not playing the Monday night game. When we did the bet on it show on Wednesday, Prez, this total was 46.5.
Yeah.
And on that show, I did say to take the under in this game. And the reason that I was looking at the under, now we've lost some value. This thing's down to 45 at most books. I was looking at Philadelphia because of the embarrassing game that they had the week before at Miami, where they were a total no-show. And seriously, you give up 37 points to Miami, your defense got embarrassed. And to be honest, Philadelphia's defense had been playing good. The previous few weeks, it was their offense that was the problem. Yeah. So I thought that this would be a good spot for the under. But now because they make the change, and as we were doing the bet on it show, word was just coming out that Eli Manning was going to be the starter. So the public hadn't reacted to the line yet. And with Eli starting, we've seen the move come to the under. People are just figuring, hey, Eli's done. He's not going to be able to generate a lot of offense in this game. He hasn't played in how many weeks. He's going to be rusty, yada, yada, yada. And I agree with all of that, but I definitely like this at the higher number. If I was forced to play the game, I still lean to the under. I think we're looking at 42, 41 as far as game total in this one. But I would like to have a little more of a cushion there, because the bad side is Eli could throw a couple picks in this one, and if you get a quick pick six, you know what that can do to a total. We've all been there before. I know you're the master of being on the wrong side of a turnover. So we'll just move on from this one. Not much to get excited about on this game tonight.
He's Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez, Lawrence Presman. We're both found at wagertalk.com, and we're going to go through every game on the board, talk about where the line should move to, and a real quick look ahead at who we think is going to cover. Marco, Thursday night's game, New York Jets going into Baltimore, minus 14.5 for Baltimore, a total of 45. And I think we've seen San Fran held Lamar Jackson down. I felt like Buffalo held Baltimore's offense down as well. And Marco, my quick look ahead here is that the New York Jets are going to hold Baltimore's offense down too. The New York Jets defense is pretty good here, and this is a massive number. I actually think this line is going to move towards the New York Jets. I think that this is going to be one of those Joes versus pros type of a game. I think there's going to be a lot of public money coming in on Baltimore, and already 55% of the tickets have been written on Baltimore. But I think we're going to see smart money come in on the Jets. I would not be blown away if this goes below 14. I like the New York Jets in the spot.
Well, I don't think that it goes below 14. We've seen the initial move on this game go to the Baltimore side, and why not? They've played so well. The problem with Baltimore here is it is a short week. You're playing a team that you don't play that often, not a division game, and you're coming off of 4 mammoth games in a row. Baltimore has played Houston, the Rams, San Francisco, and Buffalo. And the Buffalo game was huge because Buffalo's right there and was in the mix of things, with records and stuff. But they've had a great season. So to go on the road and beat a good defensive team like Buffalo in a dogfight 24-17, you got to worry about the short week. Does Baltimore start reading their press clippings and take the Jets for granted? That's my only concern here. I don't know that on the short week that I can find myself on the Jets. Probably going to be a game that I'm not involved in. But I understand the initial move. You're going to see that every week with Baltimore. That's where the public's going to be.
He's Marco D'Angelo. Brother, Tampa Bay with a great win yesterday, and this team just keeps playing to the over. 9 out of 10 to the over. It's 47.5. They're going into Detroit. 60% of the tickets have already been written on the over. 81% on Detroit. Tampa Bay finds themselves at minus 3.5. And, looking offhand at this game, I can't, I think the line is going to remain where it is, and I can't find any bets right now.
Yeah, I don't have a bet on this game right now, but I can tell you the line's going to go one way. They're going to wait and see where the quarterback's going to be officially for Detroit. And I think once it happens, the Sharps are going to take Detroit as a home dog here simply because the Tampa Bay defense, they shouldn't be laying points on the road to anybody. And the reason that their games keep going over, it's twofold. The defense can't stop anybody. The Indianapolis Colts put up 35 points yesterday, and they were aided by 4 Tampa Bay turnovers, and you're always good for a pick six with Jameis Winston, so that always hurts if you're betting an under with Tampa Bay. But you look at this Detroit team right now, they scored 7 points yesterday. That's just a bad spot. Yeah, they were going against the Minnesota Vikings, a good defense, but we saw that start they had on Thanksgiving Day where they put up 20 against Chicago, people are going to look at that, and you're going to tell me right now that on a neutral field, you're looking at Thanksgiving Day whenever they made the last-minute quarterback change, and everybody's wondering, oh, who's this guy for Detroit? Nobody heard of him and everything else, and the line soared to 5.5. That now you're going to tell me Tampa Bay is 3.5 or 4 points favored on the road, and you're going to say that on a neutral field right now, even with the erratic Mitch Trubisky, you're going to only make the Bears a 1-point favorite over Detroit? I don't think so. Or, excuse me, over Tampa Bay in comparing the two teams. So I think there's value on the Lions. I don't know that I can get there, and I think that that's where you'll see the line, where you'll see the sharps come on this game.
Marco, we're not going to talk about Washington and Philly because the Philly game goes tonight. So jumping into Chicago and Green Bay, we had an opening line of 6.5. Same with a look ahead. It's now dropped down to 4.5 minus for Green Bay. 41 is the total here, Marco. And the thing about it is, I think Chicago needs to be feeling pretty good about themselves. Mitch Trubisky, although not a world beater, is definitely playing much better the last couple of games. I don't think Green Bay is a very good team, Marco. I think they're struggling on defense. They're really not in sync on offense. I don't think they deserve to be a 4.5 favorite here against Chicago, especially with a Bears team that's playing much better. I think this line is going to continue to drop. And I think if you're going to bet Chicago, you need it to bet it now. I like the Bears.
Yeah, this is a revenge game for the Bears. They lost the opening night, if you remember the season, at Thursday night opener. This is a pattern we've seen now for a month, Prez. The look-ahead line, you said 6.5. Westgate was actually at 7. 4 weeks in a row now. The public, the minute this thing opens up, the sharps have come in and bet against Green Bay. Yeah. The sharps and Vegas see totally different on this Green Bay team. Now, you got to remember that whenever Vegas bookmakers are making lines, they're doing what they think the number should be, but they're also factoring where they think public perception is. And Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers is always a team that the public likes. But the guys that bet for a living, like us, Prez, we see that this Green Bay team really is counterfeit. They are not as good as their record. Their numbers don't support it. Their defense is horrible. And as you said, in the last few weeks, this Green Bay offense is not dominated. You throw out the game at the Giants 2 weeks ago in that snowstorm where they scored some points. They have struggled. They struggled against San Francisco. Yeah, good team. But they struggled this week against Washington. And, you know, you want to say, okay, hey, they were looking past them to this game. Maybe. I'll buy that. But you still don't struggle against the team with Haskins at quarterback and have to survive barely to just win the game. I don't like this game. I don't like Green Bay at all. And as much as I hate Mitchell Trubisky, that defense getting this many points there, it's going to be very tempting not to be on the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Marco, my quick rant. I had a 5% play yesterday on Kansas City. It wasn't on Kansas City. It was against New England. And, you know, I'm listening to the commentators, and I listen to a lot of talking heads throughout the week, whether it's, you know, Mad Dog or, you know, Alan Shine or Romy or, you know, the guys Bruce and Bruce or whatever on the NFL show on XM station. You know, these guys all talk about the problem with Tom Brady is he doesn't trust his wide receivers. Is that some kind of a joke? Like, Tom Brady, so because Tom Brady doesn't trust his wide receivers, he overthrows them by 10 feet? Because Tom Brady doesn't trust his wide receivers, he throws to the left instead of to the right? These guys are so stupid. Like, if Tom Brady doesn't trust his wide receivers, perhaps he should aim the ball even better, not worse. I don't understand why they think the problem with Tom Brady is he doesn't trust his wide receivers. The problem with Tom Brady is called Father Time. And we saw it with Peyton Manning, and we saw it quickly with Peyton Manning. It happened overnight with Peyton Manning. We've seen it with Phillip Rivers, and now they go into Cincinnati and they're plus 9.5. So
minus 9.5.
Minus 9.5. Marco, the way it works in football is in order to cover 9.5, you have to score 10, and you have to hold your opponent to 0. Now, assuming that Cincinnati could put up, say, 3 field goals, that's 9. You trust New England to put up 19 points? I don't. This line came out at 10. It's moving towards Cincinnati. It's going to continue to move towards Cincinnati. The only reason it might stay where it is to protect the 10-point teaser. But I see no reason why Cincinnati can't win this game outright. I'm fading the Pats all the way. I understand, blah, 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 blah. In order for New England to win, they need to run the ball. They can't. They need to throw the ball. They can't.
Well, until, I was giving Brady a pass for a couple of the games based on who they played and so forth and so on. But when you can't score on the Kansas City defense, then you've got problems. Granted, these two teams were very familiar with one another. That was the third time they played in less than a year. So, you're getting very frequent mileage facing Andy Reid's team. But still, to not score at home and struggle the way they did, there are problems. And as far as the confidence level goes, what he means is he just doesn't have a big play receiver anymore. Gronk's not there to open up the middle, which this is something that people are just not looking at in, flushing it under the, the rug or whatever, sweeping it under the rug. He was big whether he got the football or he didn't get the football. Okay. And right now, the only go-to guy that he does have a rapport with, that he has confidence
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Edelman.
Well, that's he looks. You're sure that's not Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Well, okay, yeah, I got you.
I need proof.
Well,
certainly looks like Ryan Fitzpatrick to me.
He does in the face, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is a pretty big boy. Edelman's like a string bean. The beard on him just doesn't look as good as on Fitzpatrick. This is a spot where lost in the shuffle too. Josh Gordon. For all the problems he had off the field, when he was on the field, he was a big part of the Patriots offense. And it gave him that guy that could stretch the field. It gave him the guy that he was confident that could go up and bring down a ball that maybe wasn't the most perfectly thrown ball and be able to get it. He doesn't have any of that, and that's becoming a problem. And as we see for the first time with the Patriots, and this is one thing you got to agree with, Prez, normally when we're entering the month of December, and the reason why the Patriots have always had such a strong record is Belichick has been a master at getting his team to peak at the right time. This is going to be the first time looking at them that they're heading, if the season ended right now, they're heading into the playoffs on a very downward trajectory, which is something they don't do. It's always going the other way. So let's see if he can get this turned around. There's still going to be a hard out to go into playoffs if teams have to go to this kind of number road. I don't know that I can do it. Cincinnati, since Dalton's come back, has played with a little bit of fire, but it's still the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see what happens. It's a coaching mismatch on the sidelines with Belichick, so we'll see what he can come up with. But I agree with you. This line's going to stay under 10 now with Vegas bringing it, going through the opener there. They're not. I don't see them going back over 10. I know there's still a 10 out there at Pinnacle, but here in Vegas, we're looking at 9.5s and 9s all across the board. And I don't see it going lower than that because they want to protect to make you use a 7-point teaser to get it down under the field goal. So that's where you're going to be on this one, and we'll move on. Not a lot to say about the Patriots right now.
Well, Probably potentially the game of the week here, Marco. Houston against Tennessee. Houston just laid an egg yesterday, and we've seen them do this from time to time, and then they usually bounce back good. But I'm looking at this Tennessee, and I'm thinking they have to be one of the most feared teams in the league. Their defense is absolutely outstanding. Derrick Henry is the best running back in all of football. Ryan Tannehill is 6-1 since he took over as a starter. And with Ryan Tannehill, we're actually, you saw that 98-yard or whatever touchdown pass he threw. Ryan Tannehill is creating space for Derrick Henry just because he can whip the ball around. We got a total of 49, Marco. It came out of 47.5. 84% of the tickets already written on the over. And it's moved up to 49.5. And Marco, I like the under in this game. I think this is going to be a tight, close game. I can't bet Houston or Tennessee here. I would likely lean towards Tennessee. But I think even with a 50 on the board at Heritage Sports, I think the under is where to look.
Prez, sit down, relax. I'm going to shock you. We're going to agree on a total here with the under in this game.
That means for sure it's going to lose.
This number's inflated based on Tennessee having 63-point total yesterday in their game,
yep,
and Houston having the 62-point game in theirs. This is a spot where this, as you said, this is going to be a playoff atmosphere. This is for the division title, and I think you're going to see things a lot tighter, closer to the vest.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, what he has done is he has created, because they have to respect the passing game, it's opened up the lanes, as you said, for the running game. And the running game has been the key for Tennessee. The last 4 weeks, Prez, 225, 219, 154, and 161. Those are just fantastic numbers on the ground. In watching the games yesterday, the thing that I kicked myself in the ass the most about is, on the Bet On It show, we have a segment where I do the sandwich game of the week. Used Oakland for it yesterday. Tennessee was in a horrible sandwich situation.
Yeah.
It was a situation where they were coming off of the Indianapolis game, which at that time was a playoff type game. It was an elimination game. Both of those teams were at 6-6 at the time and in second place in the division. And then they had to go on the road to play Oakland when they had Houston on deck. And although it was a great sandwich spot, there was a second sandwich game. And I didn't fire on that one, and that one was to go against Houston. You had Houston coming off of New England the week before, big game on TV Sunday night against your old team. Bill O'Brien is, from the coaching tree of Bill Belichick and all of that, and you had Tennessee on deck. So if we take both sandwich situations, we're 1-1. Looking at that one yesterday, and just lose the juice instead of 0-1. So that's what I'm kicking myself about. And clearly Houston came up flat looking ahead to this one. You'll see the real Houston team this week. Is that enough to beat Tennessee? We'll find out later in the week, but I agree with you 100% on the total. I think this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be played closer to the vest. And they are both going to try to establish the running game in this one, because both defenses can be beat through the air. So what's the best way to avoid that? Well, if you can keep your offense on the field and running the football, you can protect that defense. And I think that's what both teams are going to try to do.
Marco, 89% of the tickets written already on Seattle. They came out at -5. They're now -6. Carolina just absolutely fell apart yesterday. They've fallen apart on the season. It doesn't even look like they're trying anymore. And Seattle is a road warrior. This team just wins and covers on the road. Plus, we have them off of their worst game of the year. I was on the Rams last night. The Rams just played a perfect football game last night, minus Jared Goff's pick 6. And, it's funny because I don't know if I see a path for the Rams to make the playoffs. That's another story. But this team legitimately could end up, 11-5 and not make the playoffs. And Dallas or Philadelphia could end up 7-9 and make the playoffs. I just want to stop quickly and tell you that if I were on the rules committee in the NFL, and frankly in any sport, if you cannot win your division over 500, you automatically don't make the playoffs and their third wild card does. It makes total bloody sense to me. I mean, you laugh, Marco, but we are literally looking at a situation where a potential 11-5 team will not make the playoffs while a potential 7-9 team will. It's absolute stupidity to the core. Anyway, I like Seattle.
That happened several years ago in that
team
that had a losing record. No, I think it was New Orleans or Seattle a few years back. They had a bad team. The team that had the 7-9 record won their opening playoff game. And I get what you're saying, and you're making the reference to the Cowboys in Philadelphia. One of those teams is going to come out of that division, and neither of them deserve it the way they play. I agree with that. But on the same token, you could end up having a division like Houston's, the AFC South, where Houston, Tennessee, and Indianapolis are all pretty close, and they keep knocking each other off, and end up having, an 8-8 team because they keep beating each other up.
I'm okay with 8-8. 8-8 is fine. But if you're under 500, you don't get to go to the playoffs. And just to let everybody know who watched the college football betting show with Dave Koken and Teddy, had I have mentioned my thoughts on the playoff format on that show, Teddy would have gone, Prez, we're here to only handicap games. We handicap the games in front of us. Nobody needs to hear your opinion. And then Dave would have gone, yeah, so shut up. Stop talking about things that aren't betting related. And then I would have gotten bitched out in the comment section for being rude to my guests. Anyway, I like Seattle.
I'm just such a nice guy. That's why you love doing them with me, because I let you do your stuff,
Good. I like Seattle, and I think the line is going to continue to move.
Yeah, this is one where, Seattle, it's an automatic bounce back spot for them. We saw yesterday what I had been screaming the last 2 weeks when I stepped in front of Seattle, that they're not as good as their record indicates that they are, and they got exposed yesterday against Seattle. And to be honest with you, Minnesota went up and down the field on them on Monday night.
Yes.
Minnesota just kept shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers. Kirk Cousins, you have that. It's part of it. But there's no team better coached than Seattle with Pete Carroll. They'll be ready to play this week. And right now, Carolina, if you thought that they might show up last week after they fired the coach, usually that lights a spark, at least for a game or two. Well, no, it didn't. They got drilled by 20 against Atlanta. Playing a team like this, they're in the spoilers role, okay? They got an opportunity to play spoiler. But the problem with teams like that and teams that had ambitions of going to the playoffs, Carolina entering the season thought they were a legit playoff team. And to not be in it and be playing with a backup quarterback and everything else, the problem you have is if this team goes down 10 or 14 points early, they could just roll over and die. And I don't want any part of a team like that. So for me, it's Seattle or pass here. We'll see what happens later in the week.
Yeah, Marco, look, I like Pete Carroll. I don't think he's the best coach in football. I don't think they're the best coach team. I don't understand why he gets so many accolades. I mean, obviously, Bill Belichick is the best coach in football. Right. And I think without question, what Mike Tomlin has done this year has shown him to be...
he should be coach of the year this
without
year.
Question. I mean...
He won't get it, more than likely, but this is
far. If Buffalo sweeps, Sean McDermott wins coach of the year. As he should. But my love for Carroll is just not there. Like, I think he
gets the most out of a mediocre roster.
Yes, but he's a bad play caller offensively. He's too conservative. He doesn't let Russell Wilson run around. It's almost like Russell Wilson has to defy him and take the game over when they are down I'm not a Pete Carroll fan, and that fake whatever on their 30-yard line last night for no reason whatsoever just continues to show. You cannot play that type of offensive game plan against the Rams defense. You've got Aaron Donald, who is an interior rusher, not an edge rusher. You have to put Wilson on the edge. Anyway, Denver going into Kansas City. Kansas City came out at -13. There's a 10 on the board, Marco. 73% of the tickets written on Denver. We have a total of 48.5 with a lot of tickets being written on the under. Drew Lock had a monster yesterday, Marco. I think this game's an outright pass, but I think it's a bad spot for Denver.
It's a bad spot for Denver because of the fact that they just had a mammoth upset. It's also a bad spot for them because it's going to be their fourth road game in 5 weeks. The other bad spot, though, is for Kansas City. Kansas City just got major revenge on Sunday. I mean, that was the team that cost you going to the Super Bowl last year. A game that basically came down to a coin flip in overtime. I truly believe if Kansas City wins the coin toss, they win the game in overtime. They just didn't get a chance to get the football. Denver, the only thing that would have me looking at Denver here is the Kansas City defense, although it's played better in the last few weeks. Let's face it, they played the Chargers, Oakland, and New England, who's suddenly struggling. Denver put up 38 points last week. They put it up against a team that looked past them. Will Kansas City look past them? No, they got to wake up Houston. But Kansas City also already played this team in Denver and beat the snot out of them on a Thursday night football game and absolutely embarrassed them. So that is the only thing that's going to keep me from looking to Kansas City here because of the satisfying New England win and the fact they beat them so easily in the first meeting. And Denver, what do they got left? Well, Kansas City, after the Denver game, they got a tough game on the road at Chicago. That's a big game. Kansas City's got the division. That's over. It's now just jockeying for home field advantage in the playoffs. So they want to take care of business, but this is a big number. Be cautious with Kansas City laying the big number here.
I agree. We're not going to talk about Miami and the Giants, so let's jump forth to the Buffalo-Pittsburgh game, and this is a monster for both teams. I mean, you look at it from Buffalo's perspective, they are only one game up on Pittsburgh and Tennessee, holding that first wild card position. But more importantly, Marco, they're only one game behind New England with one game still against New England. This Buffalo can see a path to winning that division for the first time in since the Jim Kelly era. I look at this Pittsburgh team and, I was on Arizona yesterday and I actually felt like Arizona should have won that game yesterday. Pittsburgh got out early. They got out with a turnover. It was a punt return. I haven't had a punt or kick return for me all year, by the way, Marco. The line has dropped from 37 to 36.5. Offhand, I think that's the lowest total we've seen all year. With that said, we've had a reverse line move, Marco. It opened up at a pick'em. It's now at -2.5 at Heritage for Pittsburgh, yet 70% of the tickets have been written on Buffalo so far. So there's a lot of smart money coming in on Pittsburgh. Brother, I don't get it. I think Buffalo is one of the best teams in the league, and I think they showed it yesterday against Baltimore. I mean, look, they had shots at the end zone to tie that game against a mean Baltimore team. If I'm going to get points with Buffalo going into Pittsburgh, I'm going to take them.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if you want to take something and you're looking at the total, if you're betting the under, you need to do it right now, okay? Because this is going to be, in my opinion, the lowest total of the entire football season.
16-13 score.
This is we're looking at a total of 37 was the opener. We're already seeing a ton of 36 and a halves out there, and that's the only way people are going to bet this game. You're looking at two of the best defenses in the league. The Pittsburgh defense is getting better by the week. They were a young defense last year, and then they made two key additions to that defense this year, one through the draft and one in a trade. Getting Fitzpatrick through a trade for the Steelers, that was huge. It gave them a veteran on this defense to go with Joe Hayden, and then the developing Bush that they made with their number one draft pick. This team, this core defense right now is going to be good for years to come. You got Watt in there at linebacker as well. This is a team that Buffalo's going to have trouble scoring points. Buffalo's coming off of, if you look at their schedule, and this is going to sound stupid because the Steelers are right behind them, and if the Steelers win this game, Steelers catapult from the number 6 seed to the number 5 seed in the wild card, and then would be in the drive. They're in the driver's seat right now. They control their own destiny. But if they beat Buffalo, it gives them a cushion because they'd have the tiebreaker over Buffalo. And you look at what Buffalo's played. They played Thanksgiving Day against Dallas. Huge game, national audience. That's probably the first time a lot of people actually got to see Buffalo play this year. Then they come back and play a monster game against Baltimore, a game in which they did everything but win. They had every opportunity. That defense held Lamar Jackson in check. They only had 118 yards rushing yesterday and 139 yards passing Baltimore. If they could do that to the Baltimore offense, what are they going to do to the pedestrian Pittsburgh Steelers offense? I love my Steelers, but they're not winning games by lighting it up.
Right.
They're winning games because they're holding teams to 10, 13, and 17 points. Then you look at what Buffalo has on deck. My God, how many times can a team continue to do this and win? And then they're coming back on a short week next week. They're playing on Saturday against New England. You talk about a 4-game gauntlet for the Buffalo Bills. Hard physical games in the game of the season for them against New England. This is a tough spot, and that's why you're seeing people buy into Pittsburgh. We know how good Pittsburgh plays at home, and Pittsburgh is making believers of everybody. They won a game yesterday that they shouldn't have won. They didn't put up the numbers to do it. 275 yards of total offense, and 7 of your points came on a punt return. I don't know that I'll get involved in this, but I will tell you where I will be for 100% for sure. With this line at 2.5, I will be teasing Buffalo to the cows come home to 8.5. Because how does Pittsburgh score enough points to get this to a double-digit separation? So there's where you can, line up, and, I guarantee you when we get to bet on it on Wednesday in studio, that'll be half of my teaser.
Marco, let's race through the rest of the card. Jacksonville plus 6.5 against Oakland. The total came out at 44. It's up to 45.5, and a lot of money. I mean, we've got 95% of the tickets written on the over. I think that's a good bet right now. I think it's going to continue to go up. Oakland's pass defense is a mess. Even though Jacksonville is struggling to score, they're going to put some points up here. Oakland came out at -4. It's -6.5. I understand that too, because Jacksonville just stinks. I'm looking at the over in this game. I can't touch the side.
Yeah, I agree with you. Over's the only way to look. Two teams that have bad defenses and nothing to play for, that usually means over.
Yeah, and it's the same with the Cleveland and Arizona game. Cleveland looked good yesterday, but that was against a Cincinnati team. This Cleveland team is 6-7. I mean, they might think they still have something to play for. They really don't. Arizona is playing for next year. I'm not going to be in play on this game, but 95% of all the tickets have been written on the over already, and 66% of the tickets have been written on Cleveland, even though we have seen a line move by 0.5 point towards Arizona.
I agree with seeing the money on Arizona and what people are looking at. They're comparing it to the Pittsburgh game. Right now, Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Pittsburgh's the better team, clearly. And Arizona had every opportunity yesterday to beat Pittsburgh. If it wasn't for the 3 turnovers, they do. And yes, I can understand the money coming Arizona. I also agree with you on the over. I think you're going to see more points in this game. Because of, you don't have the defenses that you had yesterday. The Pittsburgh defense is not here, and they're not an offense that's trying to shorten the game. So Cleveland definitely will be throwing the football in this one and trying to stretch the field. Over is the play.
He's Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez. You're watching the Betting Edge with the Prez. Just to let everybody know, starting on Thursday, Rob Vino will be hosting this show until December 25th. So please enjoy his work. He is as good as it gets. I like the over in this Atlanta-San Fran game, Marco, and we have seen a line move towards it. 45.5, it came out. It's now at 47. There is a 47.5 on the board. We had San Fran at minus 12. 70% of the money has been bet on Atlanta. It's down to 10.5 already. I would take Atlanta, and I would take the over.
Yeah, we talk about sandwich games.
Yeah, this is it.
There's one that is definitely a candidate for the sandwich game of the week. You've got San Francisco coming off of Green Bay, Baltimore, New Orleans, and they got the Rams in Seattle on deck. You got Atlanta sandwiched in the middle there. How do you take Atlanta seriously? This is a spot for an epic letdown. All they got to do is win. And it's a big number. Yeah, it's Atlanta or pass. And how many times have we said that this year with Atlanta?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Marco, huge game for Dallas and the Rams. I mean, we spoke about how the Rams are going to find it hard to see a path to the playoffs, but they have to keep winning, and I think they will win this game, dude. -3 came out for Dallas. It's down to -1. 95% of the tickets are on the Rams. 95% of the tickets have been written on the over. I don't understand this over bet at all, Marco. 48 points. Look, we saw the Rams put up points yesterday against Seattle, but man, you can't count on Dallas putting up 20 against the Rams. This Rams defense is ridiculous. I mean, they got Fowler on the edge. They got Donald in the middle. They got Littleton, Corey Littleton, who is the most underrated linebacker in all of football. Both their corners are ridiculous. I think Dallas is going to struggle here. I like the Rams a shit ton, and I like the under.
A shit ton?
Yeah, dude. It's like probably my second favorite play of the week.
All right. Well, this is a crazy... We've seen a lot of movement in this game. The look-ahead line was 4, and now we're looking at a line of 1 with a major overreaction, I think, because of the Rams easily handling Seattle yesterday, and it's because everybody was so in love with Seattle.
I don't see it as an overreaction, Marco. This is not about betting. This is a typical bet against scenario. This isn't about betting the Rams and how great the Rams are. Dallas is terrible.
Okay, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. And the situation with the Rams is it is an overreaction because they beat Seattle. This is a team that has not played well this year. They've underachieved all year. Now, I know Dallas, and you made fun of them at the beginning of the show with that record in there, and they've lost 4 of their last 5 games. Okay, the 4 teams they lost to was Minnesota, a playoff team with a good defense. They lost to New England by 4. Oh, a playoff team with a good defense. Offense struggling. They lost to Buffalo at home. Oh, right now, season ended. Playoff team with a good defense.
Yeah, stop there, Marco. Stop there. The Rams are a playoff team with a good defense as well, and potentially a better defense than some of those teams. And all because the Rams might not make the playoffs, they are going to be either 10-6 or 11-5. That is a playoff team with a really good defense.
We're going to disagree here. Dallas, I think, is right now, it's too much of an adjustment. Getting Dallas at -1 at home, and this thing could very well go to pick. This is the season for them. They need to win this game, and then they got Philadelphia on deck. That's the only fly in the ointment, because even if they lose this game, it comes down to next week's game against Philadelphia. Yeah. That's the one thing that's a problem for Dallas, because they could lose here and win next week and still be
they're going to lose both games, Marco.
So we'll see. I think you see Dallas come to play this week, and for
they're going to
Rams,
show up.
I need the Rams to show me 2 good outings back to back, and I know they've won 2 in a row.
Their defense,
I'm not counting the Arizona.
Their defense has shown you more than 2 good outings in a row. Minnesota came out at -3. It's now -2.5. 79% of the tickets have been written on Minnesota, so another reverse line move. 73% of the tickets have been written on the under. It opened at 46. It's down to 44.5. I don't know, man. This game worries me. If I'm a Minnesota fan, which I'm not, this game would concern me.
Well, obviously, you got, our beloved co-host, Kelly Stewart's going to probably be talking about primetime home dog here with the Chargers, but I don't think that I'm going to get excited about it. Phillip Rivers puts up 45 yesterday. Oh, sorry. That was against the Jacksonville Jaguar defense that is absolutely quit on the season. Minnesota, they got a win yesterday, but, they went through the motions in that win. 20-7 against Detroit, a team that's playing with a third-string quarterback that nobody knew who he was. I can't get excited about it. They were coming off a bad spot. It was a horrible scheduling spot. They were coming off the Monday night game, a game in which they could have won. Short week to prepare. Now they got the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. And, oh, wait, what do they have on deck? The Green Bay Packers, which is the biggest game of the season for them as far as the division goes. That's the only negative here. As far as on paper, Minnesota is a much better football team. Phillip Rivers is going to have trouble scoring against this defense. Yeah, some teams have shown you can throw the football against Minnesota, but Phillip Rivers is not one of those guys that I trust throwing the football against them. He could be good for 1 or 2 picks in this game. I'm going to go ahead, look at Minnesota or pass right now.
Marco, we'll leave the Indy-New Orleans game for you and Rob Vino to talk about on Friday. Brother, I love having you on. These Monday shows are outstanding. Thanks for taking your time to do this with me. Listeners, make sure to comment and post. Remember, Monday is $9 Mondays at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. Every single play on the board is only $9. And there's 5% plays already up for Sunday. Wealth has one, Carmine has one, and I have one. So you can get all of them for only $9 each. Dude, I hope, I know you went to the doctors last week. I hope you're doing better now. I care about you and your health. So keep me posted. Send my love to your delicious wife, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, guys, no problem. Thanks.